Welcome to Android tutorial, and we are discussing about content provider. It's continued to the part 1, and we are here at SQLite T app, and I am defining the content provider. Here I have already defined add URI. Here URI matcher. In that URI matcher I am creating the root node and add URI. Here I need to give authority of content provider. Based on this authority, the content provider will be identified by the Android system, and I need to give for which database. I need to give the path as a and then node 1. If it is node 1, I am giving the results for database. If it is node 2, it will be some other department database, or we can make difference between based on difference between these nodes, which node to be sent to the client app depends on the requirement. Here when it comes here, the query, we need to implement the query method here. So because this method will be called by the client app. When it is called, these parameters will be passed. One is content URI, and next is for the query what are the parameter needed: projection, selection args, and order by clause. What is that? We got these parameters. Based on the parameters, I need to write a query on this, based giving like query dot db.query as explained in this statement. This statement we need to code all these parameters we got from these parameters, query parameters, method parameters we got from the client app, that has to be passed here. Then the cursor we need to pass there. Since I have already defined the method there, I call that method directly as explained in SQLite tutorial. So for that I need to create an object for the AMP database. I am creating on create. When content provider initialize when creating instance of the Android creating instance of the content provider, it calls on create callback method. There it only once it calls, so we need to here we need to get the create the object, and we need to open the database, because then only that pointer to the database will be passed to we get the reference to the database, then only we can access the database. So I've given here, and then I'm calling the method on this database object. These are all explained in the SQLite tutorial. You can refer it, and then I'm passing the cursor, and this cursor will be passed to the client app. Let's come to the client app. What I need to give here, the client app is want to access the content provider which I defined in SQLite app. So for that I defined authority as see here in match URI, this authority are defined. So the content provider authority is defined in manifesto file. The same is manifesto file that has to be passed from the client app, and that URI I am accessing the AMP database. So this based on this, if we pass this URI based on the authority, it identifies the corresponding content provider. Here that content provider is the interface between this app and that app where it is defined. So content provider acts as interface between the two apps, and it follows the mechanism binder, so remotable object and remotable method invocation mechanism, and also it follows the IIDL mechanism, Android interface definition language, and the marshalling and unmarshalling and deliver this whenever they invoke the method, this deliver these arguments by marshalling and unmarshalling and deliver, and result we get back through interface to the app. So this content provider has the interface, and internally it uses the AIDL mechanism and remote method invocation mechanism, and through that we get the object, we get the results from the content provider to this app. So what is the content resolver here? This content resolver, when you pass this, when it sees this URI, it takes on the authority, it identifies the content provider, and it acquires the content provider object and it communicates with the remoteable object, and through that content provider interface. So when I give the URI here, and it sees that content provider, identifies the content provider this, and it calls, when it calls query method from the remoteable object, these arguments will be delivered to the Escalate app here, and it calls the query method here, and query method will be executed and returns the cursor result table, and the pointing to the cursor, it will return to the client app, and client app get the cursor, and we can display it here. So this is the content provider, how it works, and we use the content resolver and we pass the content URI. Based on it identifies the content provider and execute the query over there, and we get back the result table and pointing to the cursor that point to that, and we use this, and I am executing this now, and let's see, it should work. See, I am executing now. Got it? Then I am executing the client app now. So I should find the results here. What I passed here is 5704. So I need to pass. See here, I got 5704 here. 5705 it is, it's not executed now. I'm executing now. It's not taking. It's launching now. So I should get 5704 here. See, we got the 5704 here in this Unisys. So this is the content provider. This is the content provider concept. We need to define the content provider over there. There is a URI matcher we need to give, and we need to implement the query, insert, update methods over there in content provider here, and here we need to pass that URI here, content URI, and through content resolver it acquires the content provider and it communicates with the object which extends the content provider over there, and that through that object it calls the query or insert an update method, and it through marshal unmarshal mechanism this will pass to the content provider there in that app, and results will get back to this client app, and we got the result table and cursor point to that, and we got the result here. And we can observe for the content observer, and we can use content observer here, and whenever the database is changed, this app get notified. So when it is get notified, we can update whatever we want to update